Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first ever episode for Manush Ki Bolbe, a podcast created to empower Bengali youth through shared life experiences and stories to help navigate their journey with resilience and confidence. I totally read that off in the script. My name is Rajon, and here we have the lovely
Sultana.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, this is our first episode, so we're really excited. Do you want to start us off, I guess?
Yeah. I think we can start off by telling everybody what Manush Ki Bolbe means.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like an idiom, but it's basically an expression that we often use in Bengali households. But I think in South Asian families, they probably use this too in some way.
Yeah, it's kind of like that whole, like, what will people say?
Exactly.
You ever heard your mom just kind of yell at you for doing something stupid, or I don't know, like maybe getting piercings, for example. And then she's like, what will people think of us? They're going to look at you, and, I don't really care about that stuff. And I don't think Sultana does either, and so that's where kind of the name sort of came from, through a mutual conversation of just about, like, day-to-day stuff that we all go through. And it's like, what will people say if we do this podcast?
Right. And I think, like, because we plan to explore, like, different controversial topics, taboo topics that, aren't normally discussed in our cultures openly, we really wanted to have a name that kind of signified, like, what we're about.
Yeah.
And
I think that this name in particular works very well, at least about the message that we're trying to spread.
Yeah.
But before we get into things, like just the stuff that we'll talk about in later episodes, I guess why don't we just introduce ourselves properly?
Yeah.
I'm Rajon, 26-year-old, grew up in Atlanta, Georgia for a majority of my life. And the reason why I'm on this podcast is because I really wanted to start a podcast for a long time. I didn't really have, like, an idea of what I wanted to do, but I thought it would be very cool.
Yeah.
So, like, just a fun side project.
I agree.
You see stuff on, like, TikTok and Instagram, like, oh my God, they're having so much fun just talking about the day-to-day things that we're always talking about. But it's just, like, it's nice to have those conversations and see it in a third-person perspective. It kind of makes you feel, like, relatable to them in a way.
Yeah.
And another thing is I think I can come across as articulate sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what people have said to me.
Yeah.
But I personally don't believe that for myself in a lot of ways. Even now, I'm a little bit nervous given that it's our first episode. But I think it's good practice. I think it's good practice for me to learn how to talk to people one-on-one, or maybe in a small group setting. Because, I'm an extrovert, but I'm also very introverted.
Yeah.
I like my comfort. But what brings you here?
So I think right now it's such a crucial time for Bengalis in Atlanta, for Bangladeshis in Atlanta. We'll get into that a little bit too.
Yeah.
To have people to speak out on experiences, on topics that they can relate to, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like lately mental health has been a hot topic in our community,
for sure,
and I feel like there's a huge gap between, like, our generation and our parents' generation. And I really feel like, we have the ability, the capacity, we are able to articulate our thoughts enough to be able to share stories and kind of bring to light some of these topics so that we can inspire young people and maybe have just like give them sort of a platform, like, hey, these people I can relate to, we are going through the same thing, and, like, I think I can deal with my problems a little bit better, right? So I just want to be a voice. I also want to lend a hand, and just, like, inspire people similar to us.
Right. I think that's very important nowadays. I feel like there's, like, a huge mental health crisis going on.
Yeah.
And there's, like, so many reasons behind that. But when I was a kid, growing up without a lot of people to look up to in that sense of how to survive America, how to survive in, like, this world that's so different from where our parents grew up in. Like, they were our models for how to be successful.
Right.
But they were successful there, not here.
Right.
I really wish I just had, like, like a borofa or like a borobai, just to like guide me through that entire process. And I really hope that through this that we can at least do that for someone else.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then also, like, going back to your point about having this as a side project, right? Like, we're both in corporate, we're both in jobs that are very demanding, and I feel like during the week we spend the majority of our time, right, like, giving to our work. And I feel like I'm really excited to share this time with you, to record, to have fun, and to give our time to something that hopefully inspires people, but also, allows us to have an outlet to express ourselves in a different way.
Yeah, I'm so busy. Let me tell you, I'm so freaking busy, and it's like, it's like after work, like I come home and I'm like, what do I do? Like, I'm so bored. I don't even have time for hobbies nowadays.
Same. And it's like hard to shut your brain off. Sometimes, like, you come back from a long day and you're like, oh my God, like, I have deadlines tomorrow, right? And it's like you're constantly thinking about work, and I feel like finally I can think about something else that I'm also very passionate about, that I can dedicate time to,
that you're willing to give
exactly
time to, exactly. Yeah. Gosh, it's been a rough couple years trying to learn how to manage things as an adult, but we'll get into that later. So that being said, I wanted to bring us to the first topic at our disposal. What was it like for you growing up in America? Or I guess we'll scale it down to growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, as a Bengali.
Yeah. So, I mean, just going back, like, I was born in Bangladesh, actually. I was born in Sylhet, in my Nanabari. And I came to Atlanta when I was a baby. So, raised here in Buckhead, in a predominantly Latino neighborhood. And so we were immersed in, like, Latin culture, Hispanic culture, right? Mexican culture, really. And we went to a school, Atlanta Public School, that was predominantly white, black, and Hispanic. We were really the only brown kids in our entire school. There were a couple here and there, but really hard to spot, right? And so first of all, like, our parents weren't fully immersing us into the Bangladeshi culture here. But second of all, growing up in an urban city, I do feel like, especially with having two parents that worked full time, we as kids, I'm one child out of five. I'm the second oldest. We had to do a lot of things independently. We had to learn how to grow up really fast. By the age of 15, I was driving and chauffeuring everybody in my family around. That's pretty young, right?
Yeah. It's a lot to take in, especially when you're just a kid. Right.
I feel like I meet suburban kids and they're like 23 and still don't have a license, right? And so I think, like, my experience as a person who grew up in the city of Atlanta, with two working Bangladeshi parents who were trying to assimilate us into the American culture, but also my dad was a freedom fighter, so he wanted us to also, like, remember and understand our roots. It was such an interesting, like, mix of, like, so many different, like, things, like, so many different interests, so many different, like, motivations. And so I think, like, my experience is really unique in that way. And I'm excited to learn about your experience, but I also think it's funny how you and I met, because we're both a part of Bengalis of Atlanta. We both lived in Atlanta. We're around the same age.
Yeah.
Our parents knew each other, but we never, ever hung out like we're doing now. And now we're literally hosting a podcast show together.
We're the second oldest in our family group. In our siblings, in a group of 5.
Right.
Yeah.
We have so many similarities. Like, I knew his dad before I knew Rajan, which is insane.
Yeah, which is not surprising.
It's not surprising.
Yeah, but it's like it's so crazy how we have been in the same area for so long and never knew of each other until now.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I'm, like, really grateful for Bengalis of Atlanta, because I do feel like it's allowing people to just connect with people in a very genuine way, right? Before, when we were younger, I feel like going to the picnics or the dawats or the, events, it just felt a little bit forced, right? And even when you did go, if you didn't have those friends already, it was like very isolating.
Yeah,
right?
It's very cliquey.
Very cliquey.
If you did go, you would probably just end up talking to your cousins or
Yes,
something
yes,
like that. You're not going to really
exactly.
go out and see, like, I'm not going to hit up some girl, like,
Right.
in front of all these aunties, you know? Like, I'm not going to
Right.
talk to them because I don't want that shit to go out there.
Exactly.
I would love to,
because
but I can't.
Manush Ki Bolbe.
Manush Ki Bolbe.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So I think it's interesting the fact that, you know, we're here today kind of
Mhm.
doing this podcast together. And like, I feel like I've known you my whole life, but we haven't known each other. So I feel like, inshallah, hopefully this experience will bring us closer. We're going to learn more about each other, but also hopefully shed some light on some things.
Of course, yeah. No, I totally believe that as well.
Yeah.
I feel like my experience growing up in Atlanta, or America and Atlanta, very different from yours. Just hearing it right now, it's just like, whoa, holy shit. How is that even possible for a brown person to experience? Because, you know, I grew up in the suburbs. I feel like a lot of Bengalis kids did. Like, that was their lifestyle. They grew up very close to their home. Yeah. Didn't have a lot of opportunities going out because I think most kids in my situation, their fathers were probably working from like 8 a.m. to like 10 p.m. And that's a whole different type of trauma out there. I definitely have some daddy issues, you know, like I wish my father was there, but at the same time, you know, my mom was home. She was a housewife. She took care of us, which I'm super grateful for. It made going out hard. I was in a very safe neighborhood, but my parents were very uncomfortable for me to go out and like, you know, stay after school or even take me. Like, even if they wanted to, my mom couldn't drive. My dad was too busy. It was hard.
Logistically,
they couldn't handle all the like, who does what? No, you know what? You stay home. Everybody has to stay home until I get back or until I have one day off. Even then, like, his day off was super busy. He would have to do the groceries. He would have to take care of his own mom. It was a lot. I'm grateful for the experience. I think it definitely it shaped me to who I am today. But there are a lot of challenges that came along with it later on. You know, you were, from what I got from your story, you grew up very, not like independent, but you grew up having to like almost fend for yourself and others. So you were like a provider. But to me, I felt like things were always having been done for me. You know, my mom was cooking for me. My dad was doing the groceries for me. They were taking me out and stuff. And I was a rebellious kid. Don't get me wrong. I was a huge troublemaker, but it was just like within the confines of my own neighborhood or my own house, you know? I would have loved to have been a troublemaker in the city, riding around a skateboard. I don't know, giving a wedgie to a cop. You know, I dreamt about those things, but I really just couldn't. Another thing is just like, you know, going back to like how much was done for me. Like, I feel like I struggle with taking care of myself a lot. I think there's a term for that. It's like boy mom. Oh my God. Like, I was a boy mom for sure. Literally, like, if I was like, I'm Feto Bishkore, she would
Mama's boy
immediately
Baba,
like,
8
Dimbaji in my fucking face in like 2 seconds, and my sisters would hate me for it because they would have to cook for themselves. My mom's not gonna, because my mom raised my sisters in a way where it was just like, you know, you're gonna get married, you need to learn how to do these things, and they're like, what about Metro Bay over there? They're just like lays in the couch and does nothing. I don't do that now. I learned a lot from, you know, just heartbreaks, man. Like just like other things, like how hard it is to actually provide for yourself when you're outside of that space of comfort. Like going to college. Like, holy shit. Like let me tell you, my first meal prep was just beans, black beans. I didn't know how to cook. My roommate didn't know how to cook. We were like, fuck, we're just gonna eat some beans. And we were like, no, we can't do this. So we started like actually making like gourmet level dishes, like pasta with pesto. We made like Hawaiian tacos with like pineapples and like red cabbage. We went off, but it was a transitional period for my life. Like, it was like I had to do it. If I didn't move out, I would have been like a boy mom for the rest of my life.
And I do think that's a thing in in South Asian brown, right? It's like a stereotype.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of the brown boys are the boy moms, and you know, when they get into relationships, it's really hard for them. And we're gonna dive into this a lot more.
Yeah, that's gonna be, I swear, that's gonna be an hour-long special. Like, we're gonna put it on our podcast. We're gonna put it on social media. Relationship talk. Sign up for the actual live event.
I can't wait for that one.
Oh,
but
I'm not. It's gonna be so many like aha moments I'm gonna have where it's like, I fucked up. There were a lot of moments
it's
I fucked up.
It's okay though.
Yeah.
It's okay. And I think the whole point of this podcast and bringing it back to like why we're here today, right, is that I think both of us are very introspective and we're both very curious individuals, and we both really like to explore and make ourselves better, right? How can we be the best versions of ourselves, right? And I feel like we're also both very family oriented, but we also want to have healthy relationships and boundaries with our families.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, for sure.
And so I think we've learned that though. Like, and I don't know if it's because we're both second children. I don't know what it is, but I do feel like me compared to my other siblings, I definitely have a really amazing relationship with my mom that I cherish so much. And it's a very honest and communicative relationship with my mom that I think a lot of brown kids don't have with any of their parents, right? And I feel like you, from our conversations that we've had recently, it seems like you also cherish having a really nice, honest, communicative relationship with your parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I like
and
to
it's getting
keep it
better,
that way.
right?
It's definitely getting a whole lot better, but
Takes work.
It takes a lot of work.
Yes.
It takes a lot of opening up.
Yes.
And probably some arguments that you're not
Right.
really comfortable having, but like if you really want to set like boundaries and at the same time love the people that you love, you gotta have, you can't have one or the other, because you're not gonna like one side,
right?
You're gonna want both,
right?
But you gotta work for it. Like
right.
My dad and we've gotten into so many fights I cannot count, but like I'm at a point where I really, really respect and love my dad.
Yeah,
I told you this story, right? It was just like I was telling my dad, like I was like, Baba, I'm worried about like having to take care of you for the rest of my life. Yeah. Like I want to live my own life. One day I'm gonna have a family of my own. I can't take care of you and mom too. Like at least not now. Yeah. Like I want to
like the pressure of that,
it's
right?
a lot of pressure.
It's like not like even sometimes I think it's subconscious. Like our parents aren't like saying you have to do XYZ necessarily. Sometimes they are. Yeah. But most of the time it is really self-inflicted. But when we actually have a conversation with our parents and when we talk to them about how we feel, like how you did with your dad, and he was like, no, it's okay. I don't need that. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, he really just, he looked at me and he's like, what are you talking about? Yeah. I didn't, like, he's like, why are you staying at home? Like, after you got a job, after you lived through college, why are you staying at home? I'm like, I'm trying to save money. I'm trying to help you as well. He's like, no. Yeah. You're trying to save money, right? So you can leave? I'm like, yeah. He's like, then go. Like, I'm not, and he didn't say it in like, get the fuck out of my house type of thing. He was just like, go. Like, I don't want to be the person to take away your freedom. And he was like, as a matter of fact, I wish I could have done better for our family and myself even more, so you don't have to worry about the thing. But if you feel like you want to leave, leave. I'm not going to hold that against you. Yeah. I don't want to keep you here.
Yeah. Like, and how did that make you feel? Were you...
I was like, damn. Yeah. Like, I was like, shit. Yeah. This is the first time where he said something and I didn't disagree or I didn't argue. I was just like, thank you. Like, I really needed to hear that. Yeah. Like, if I hadn't heard that, I probably would have lived a lot or lived my life past then. Right. The same as I've always been. Yeah. Hating my parents, not hating, but having that grudge against my parents for like having to take care of them all the time. Well, at the same time, I couldn't take care of myself. Yeah. Now it just feels like, all right, I'm gonna take care of myself and them. But once I'm ready to leave, I need to leave. Yeah. And then I'll come back when I can. Yeah. I don't want it to be a transactional relationship, and now it doesn't feel like that at all.
That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. I feel like those conversations are so important. And they're so hard to have.
They're so hard.
Like, and so I'm excited to like get into that because like that is such a good conversation to have with your parents. And it's, again, so hard. Makes me emotional because like I remember when, you know, I was at Emory and I was a Bachelor of Science and I was going to the med school route. But I had never wanted that for myself. Mm-hmm. I was just in it because I was smart, and my parents really wanted me to be a doctor. And I remember like going through it and applying to med schools and getting to that point where I was like, I don't even want this. Like, I don't want to be in school for the next 12 years of my life after I had finished 4 years of college, you know? And breaking that down to my family was like one of the biggest, scariest moments of my life.
Sure.
And like, it was harder than like anything I had ever done, right?
Yeah.
But like their reaction was like, okay. They were like, it's okay. If this is not what you want, we like want you to be happy. We want you to do what you want to do. And if, you know, you should have told us sooner, right? So a lot of these things are self-inflicted, self-imposed, right? And it's scary because it's like our parents sacrificed so much.
They did.
And
you almost feel guilty for letting them down. And that makes it hard to tell them the truth. Like, you want to do things differently.
Right. But like now, it's like we have these great relationships, right? Like there are always going to be hiccups. They're not going to love everything that we do and say. But I truly believe that like working on it and like having an honest and communicative relationship with your parents is better than like hiding and being a second person, like how people are like one person inside the house. Yes, Gio, Gina, okay, Abu, okay, Amu. And then as soon as they leave the house, they're a completely different person, right?
I hate that shit.
I hate that.
I freaking hate it. I hate passive aggressiveness.
Oh,
you know?
Yes.
Like, it just tell me what's wrong. Tell me what's wrong.
Yes.
Tell me what's wrong.
Yes.
If I can fix it,
I'll
help.
Right.
If I can't, deal with it.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
There doesn't need to be some great, like, you know, like when you're like in a tense brown house and you can just feel the air is heavy.
And like the kids who do that are in such horrible like environments, right? The ones that are like a little bit more conservative.
I'm sorry.
Inside.
I forgot to.
It's okay. The kids, right, that are very conservative inside the house, can't be themselves, can't show their personality, right? But the second they step out of school, they can. They start to show resentment to their parents. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really excited to explore some of these topics, get into religion, get into dating, get into going to college and going to our first bar and like joining sororities, what that was like for me, and whatever the frick I did. Yeah, no, we'll talk about what I did in college. We'll keep it PG-13 for the first episode. Yeah.
But yeah, I am also very excited. I really want to bring in other people as well. I think I was just listening to. I was like, you know what? We're actually super similar.
Yes,
it's almost scary.
Yeah.
But we need to bring in other people.
Oh my God!
Who are
yes.
We need to bring in different people.
Oh,
we need to
100%.
bring in we need to bring someone crazy.
Yes.
But also we need to bring in someone who's not crazy. Maybe like a religious person.
Yes.
That would be wild.
Yeah.
I
agree. That would be interesting.
Oh my God.
No, but I think like exploring our different dynamics too would be good and helpful for anyone. Bringing in people and just getting people's perspectives on different things and how they kind of grew up in Atlanta, how they grew up as a Bangladeshi, how they experience different things. We'll talk about interracial relationships, right? That's a big topic. Dating Bengali boys, dating Bengali girls, what that experience is like. I think everybody wants to hear about that.
We're gonna help our people. Brown boys, we're gonna set you up. We're gonna set you straight. I promise.
We're gonna unpack a lot of things. So very excited to do that with you. But yeah, are we missing anything for our first episode?
No, I think that was a really good start. We covered a lot of detail, more than I thought we would. And we're also running out of time here. I don't want to make it so long so that people get bored. Yeah. Keep the mystery alive. Let's keep the mystery alive. So that's kind of it. Yeah. I'm really satisfied.
But if you guys have any topics that you guys want us to discuss, feel free to send them through our DM. We're going to be uploading our podcast onto all of the different platforms. And so hopefully you guys can comment on them. Be nice.
Please.
Please.
If my voice sounds weird, don't let me know.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
I'm insecure, guys.
We're trying to, do something for the community and for us. But hopefully we do a good job of representing you guys and articulating ourselves. So give us some grace. I know we'll get better.
Yeah, we're going to have our cameras are going to get better for sure. We're going to have better mics. We're going to have better setups. A lot more topics. Yes. So yeah, that's it. That's
Bye,
a wrap.
guys.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next
Thanks
time.
for tuning in.